In March, my dividend portfolio paid me $952. That's a 142% increase from last year. Let's break down exactly where that money came from. Welcome back everyone, I'm the Swedish dividend investor. March has wrapped up and the markets are going crazy. However, my portfolio is doing pretty good as for now. That's usually the case during turbulent times. So as always, we will go through my total portfolio value and performance, my income during March, and we will compare it to last year. As always, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my investing journey, my experiences and my analysis. Read the full disclaimer in the description. Starting off with the portfolio value. Now, if you're new here, I have two portfolios. My main portfolio and my high yield portfolio. So my main portfolio value is 1,324,703 Swedish crowns and my high yield portfolio is at 122,951 Swedish crowns. That's a total of 1,447,654 Swedish crowns. At March 31st, the dollar was 9.45 Swedish crowns. So that comes out to $153,190 or about 132,662 euros. So last month, the dollar value was 157k, but the value in Swedish crowns was 1,418,118 last month. So I'm up 29,536 Swedish crowns. That's the dollar going up. If the dollar goes up, it deflates my portfolio value. And the inverse is also true. The most important thing to me is the value and income goes up in my native currency. I just wanted to make that clear. As for the performance, let's start off with my high yield portfolio. Negative 8.31% as the end of March and negative 10.47% as the 1st of April. Yeah, if you invest in BDCs and bad times hit, you better buckle up. So how is the main portfolio looking? Well, pretty good I would say. 7.79%, and I'm way ahead of the indexes for those who care. I usually say this, I don't care about outperforming, I just want to perform. Alright, let's move on with the income. So for the first week, I received 10 payments. First out is Gladstone Capital, ticker GLAD. Investing in BDCs right now is a bumpy ride, and you will probably need balls of steel. GLAD pays monthly, and they have been getting crushed along with almost every BDC since the fall of 2025. My 100 shares each paid me $0.15, so a total of $15. However, we need to pay the World Police protection money. It is theft and the theft fee is 15%. So we have to part ways with $2.25, leaving us with a net payout of $12.75. Let's do some more BDCs. Capital Southwest, ticker CSWC, another monthly payer. They sometimes bless us with a supplemental dividend. However, this month it was just the regular dividend. My 80 shares each paid me $0.1934, so a total of $15.47. And yet again, that pesky taxman needs his cut for blowing shit up. So we part ways with $2.32, and that leaves us with $13.15. Now, Capital Southwest is actually doing pretty fine compared to a lot of my other holdings. I wish they could fall down a bit until the next time I reinvest my dividends. Next one. Pennant Park Floating Rate, ticker PFLT. Yet another monthly payer. Gotta love that monthly high cash flow. Yes, they are down, but their dividend is oh so sweet. My yield on cost is almost at 13%. My 203 shares each paid me $0.1025, so a total of $20.80. After removing the cost of freedom of $3.12, we land at a total of $17.68. Even though the next one came a couple of days later, Let's go over it, since it's the last BDC. Hercules Capital, ticker HTGC. Yeah, surprise surprise, they are down. A lot. I think I'm going to reinvest into this one, once I have gathered and stacked some dividends. They did pay a supplemental dividend this month, so the regular dividend was $0.4 and the supplemental was $0.07. So my 104 shares each paid me $0.47 combined, a total of $48.88. Removing the tax of $7.33 leaves us with $41.55. Awesome. Next up, a new favorite of mine. First Trust West S&P 500 Dividend Aristocrats Target Income ETF. Wow, that's a mouthful. Ticker KNG. Now, I hope you saw my video about KNG. I absolutely love this covered call ETF. In my opinion, this is a sleep well at night ETF. It is one of my largest holdings, and I hold 630 shares now. However, for my first dividend, it wasn't as big of a position. My then 100 shares each paid me $0.1544. So we get a total of $15.44 and no taxes. You might think I live on the Cayman Islands, but no. I use a Swedish tax sheltered account, and I don't pay any withholding taxes on ETFs domiciled in Ireland or on any Swedish stocks. Alright, next one. Cibus Nordic Real Estate, ticker CIBUS, on the Stockholm Stock Exchange. I always say Sweden's own realty income. Now, their dividend hasn't grown in a couple of years, but it offers a yield of 6.65% currently, with monthly payouts, and they're very defensive with their focus on properties used by grocery stores. My 443 shares each paid me 0.8539 Swedish crowns, so a total of 378.28 Swedish crowns. No taxes on this one, but let's convert it to US dollars, and we land at $40.03. How about some more covered call ETFs? JP Morgan US Equity Premium Income ETF, ticker JEIP or JEPI. I have actually sold this one, and I put it into the brother ETF. I wasn't really that impressed with the performance, and I figured my money will work better for me in another ETF. My then 36 shares each paid me $0.1309, so a total of $4.71 and no taxes. Let's see where I put the money from this ETF. JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income ETF, ticker JEQP or JEPQ. Now, this one hasn't been as bad as JEPI. I like the yield a lot better, and the yield makes the performance of this one much better. However, I made the switch after the ex-dividend date, so my then 36 shares each paid me $0.2261, which brings the total to $8.14, and again no taxes for Brussels. Time for the older brother. JP Morgan Global Equity Premium Income ETF, ticker JGPI or JEPG. One of my favorite ETFs. Sure, the performance hasn't been that stellar, thanks to the dollar, but I do think it is pretty defensive and the yield is pretty awesome. My then 480 shares each paid me $0.1576, so the total payout was $75.64. Suck it, Ursula. Alright, last payment for the first week. Montrose Global Monthly Dividend MSCI World ETF, ticker MONTDIV, on the Stockholm Stock Exchange. I am in a bit of a spring cleaning mode, and this one is on my list of holdings I want to get rid of. Anyway, so my 309 shares each paid me 0.4513 Swedish crowns, a total of 139.45 Swedish crowns. Converting it, we get a freedom unit count of $14.75. Summing up the first week and the monthly total so far, we land at $243.84. For the second week, I received two payments. First out is Archer Daniels Midland, ticker ADM. This is one of the stocks I sold during my spring cleaning. It's nothing wrong with ADM, but I wanted to lock in my profit and get a much higher yield. So my then 100 shares each paid me 0.52, a total of $52. Removing the tax of 7.8, we land at a total of $44.2. Next up is my oldest holding. Exact Nordic High Dividend Low Volatility ETF, ticker XACT HTIV. Like I said, this is the oldest dividend investment in my portfolio. I just can't sell it. It is one of the best dividend growth ETFs, if you are Swedish. Otherwise, there is a withholding tax on this one. My 590 shares each paid me 1.9 Swedish crowns, so a total of 1,121 Swedish crowns. Converting it, we land at $118.62 and again, no taxes. Gotta love that. Summing up the second week, we land at $162.82. Adding it to the monthly total, we land at $406.66. For the third week, I received 5 payments. First out is a staple in a dividend stock portfolio. Realty Income, ticker O. Man, have they been on a run as of lately. I've held them since early 2021 and I rarely get a chance to stock up on more. As for now, I'm just holding and waiting for a massive dip. My 111 shares each paid me 0.27, so a total of 29.97. But we do have to part ways with 4.5, making the net payout $25.47. Thank you very much. Tired of covered call ETFs? Too bad. Here is some more. Global X S&P 500 covered call ETF, ticker XYLD or XY7D. In my QQIA video, I said the only big index with a good strategy we lack is a S&P 500 covered call ETF. This is, as far as I know, the only choice as for now, if we want monthly payments. My 210 shares each paid $0.1258, so we land at $26.42. I can't really complain so far. With the dividends included, I'm up on this position. Moving on. Global X Nasdaq 100 covered call ETF, ticker QYLD or QYLE. It's the same with this one. There are better strategies out there, but the performance is still positive if I include the dividends. However, I am thinking about slowly selling off this one and moving it into JEPQ and QQIA. The yield isn't much higher, and I think the price appreciation potential is higher with the other ETFs, since they have a more conservative strategy. Anyway, my 196 shares each paid me $0.1652, bringing the net payout to $32.38. A pretty new holding coming up. Global X Euro Stocks 50 covered call ETF, ticker SYLD or SY7D. I bought this one since I wanted more exposure to Europe equity. However, this was just before I saw JP Morgan had launched their Europe equity ETF. This is a small position for me, so as for now I'm just holding, but I might sell it and move it to JEPE or JEEP. My 125 shares each paid me 0.1483 euros, so a total of 18.45 euros. Converting it, we land at $21.56. Pretty sweet. Last payment for this week. Manulife Financial, ticker MFC on the Toronto Stock Exchange. This one also got sold during my spring cleaning. I had a huge gain on this one and a pretty sweet yield on cost of 7%. However, I want to focus more on ETFs going forward, and now I got rid of another currency to keep up with. Let me know if you want to know where I put my money from the proceeds from this one. My 130 shares each paid me 0.485 Canadian dollars, so a total of 63.05 Canadian dollars. After removing the theft fee of 9.46, we land at 53.59 Canadian dollars. Converting it to US dollars, we arrive at $38.58. Summing up the third week, we land at $144.41. Adding it to the monthly total, we land at $551.07. For the fourth week, I received 3 payments. First out is an ETF Infrastructure Capital Preferred Income ETF, ticker ASWN or PFFI. I recently increased my position in this one massively. It is in my top 3 holdings, and what can I say? I love it. It is pretty price stable, comparing it to how everything else is doing right now, and the dividend is fixed. My then 550 shares each paid me $0.1339, so a total of $73.64 and no taxes. I now have 680 shares, so yeah, I went in pretty hard. Alright, last dividend payment for the month, but not the last payment. Swedbank, ticker SWEDA on the Stockholm Stock Exchange. Now, I've been holding this one since 2020. My yield on cost was almost 20%, and I had a gain of over 100%, only counting the price appreciation. With dividends, it was around 200%. I decided to sell this one. I know, don't sell your winners, but I think the party for banks may be over. And if it isn't, I still hold a lot of BDCs. This was a big position then, but now it was just too small. So I sold it and put the money to work in my ETFs. Anyway, my then 103 shares each paid me 29.8 Swedish crowns, so 3069 nice 0.4 Swedish crowns. Converting it, we land at $324.8. Time for the last payment. That is interest rate from my broker's savings account. I have been eyeing some bond ETFs with monthly payments, and I think I will put some of my cash there instead, since I only get a 1.3% yield with a 30% tax here. Anyway, I got 43.31 Swedish crowns, but removing the 30% tax of 13.59 Swedish crowns, we land at 31.72 Swedish crowns. Converting it to dollars, we get $3.35. And that's it for the monthly income. Summing up the fourth week, we land at $401.79. Adding it all up for the grand total for the month, we land at $952.86. I'm going to include it in euros as well. So that's about 819.46 euros. Wow, that is a pretty hefty amount. So how does it compare to March of 2025? Heading over to my dividend tracker, we can see I was paid 3,709.82 Swedish crowns, or 392.57 in today's dollar value. Calculating the difference, we get 142.72%. Now, Swedbank only pays once per year, and last year they paid in April and not in March, so that skews the numbers a bit. Anyway, it is still a lot of income and gain over a month. Next month number to beat is 8,196.38 Swedish crowns, or $867.34. Do you think I will be able to beat it now that I have sold Swedbank? Make sure to stick around for the next month update, and let me know what was your biggest dividend payment in March. But guys, that's it for today. If you like my work, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. Thanks. I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, stay smart, stay patient and keep stacking those dividends. Ha det gött!